The timing of a lot of recent trades has become a source of suspicion here in the US. Back in April, a wave of accounts on Polymarket, which is a platform where you can place bets on news outcomes, saw people place bets on an incoming US and Iran ceasefire. After that happened, people walked away with hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Prediction market sites are really taking off in the US. There are two big ones, Polymarket and Kalshi, and I'm going to get one up on my phone so we can have a look at the kinds of things that people are placing bets on. So there is one here, US-Iran permanent peace deal by June 30th or May 31st. And loads of sports stuff, like 2026 FIFA World Cup winner, France or Spain, you tell me. Also loads of different tennis matches. So it looks like you can bet on pretty much any real world event. But these apps bring up all sorts of ethical questions, not just about war profiteering. There's a whole section based on Iran, but also insider trading. And you might have read the case recently of an American soldier who's been arrested and charged with using classified information to make money from the capture of Nicolas Maduro, the Venezuelan president. This soldier allegedly made $400,000 on the bet. So why are people betting on these kinds of things, from the weather and elections to global conflicts, and should it be allowed? I'm Hannah, and this is What in the World from the BBC World Service. First, let's hear what some of you guys think about prediction markets.
Hi, my name is Oliver Coro. I'm 23 years old and I'm based in Texas. I've definitely seen the rise in prediction markets getting really popular in Gen Z, and I really don't think it's a great way for people to get some extra income because it leads to people gambling more and more in the future. However, I do understand that a lot of Gen Z, with the rising prices in gas, the rising prices in rents, the rising prices in student loans, interest getting higher every single year, it's really hard for people to make extra income. It seems like it's a result of a bigger problem.
Hey y'all, my name is Mary Esposito. I'm 22 years old and I'm based in North Carolina. I know a lot of people who use them as an extra way to make cash, but in my opinion, I think that's a little risky because while there's a great potential to make a great amount of money, there's also a great potential to lose a lot of money. I can also see why a lot of people do experiment in prediction markets. I mean, it can be kind of fun to just make trades and do it with your friends and stuff, but I guess I would caution against perceiving it as anything more than just this recreational entertaining activity, and avoid perceiving it as a long-term wealth building strategy just because of the volatility and the inconsistency and the lack of regulation in these prediction markets.
Now let's find out more from our reporter Madeline Gerber, who is based in Washington. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're super welcome. So tell me a bit about how prediction markets work.
Well, the two main prediction markets that we're talking about that are the big ones right now are Kalshi and Polymarket, and they're relatively new. They are started in 2020 and 2021. Basically, these are crypto-based prediction platforms, and you are trading against somebody else, another market participant, with a yes or no outcome. So the outcome or the thing that you're trading on could be anything from the outcome of a sporting event, it could be the outcome of the election, or it could be if President Trump is going to use a certain word in one of his speeches.
And it sounds a lot like gambling to me.
And you're not the first person to say that. That really is the major argument here. And basically, if it sounds confusing, it's because it is confusing on purpose. It's basically a loophole. So here in the US, gambling is regulated on a state level, and prediction markets are regulated by the federal government. And not to get too crazy and into it, but sports betting and gambling is not legal in every state here in the US. It is regulated by the states. So by calling something a prediction market versus gambling, this allows the federal government to regulate it. Therefore, it is legal in all 50 states. And technically, people will argue that prediction markets are not gambling because you are not trading against odds set by a house like in traditional gambling. That's the technicality of it.
So what do these companies say is actually the point to these platforms? What is the point of them?
I mean, people argue that prediction markets is similar to trading on a stock market, and that it also is something that requires skill, and it's kind of like a game where you are using your own knowledge of events and current events and basically using that to make money.
Insider trading is one of the big criticisms, the big concerns that people have about these apps. And it's when people make bets or trades on information that isn't available to the public. And it is illegal in the US. And people started to spot links between some of President Trump's big announcements in the past few months and the predictions on these apps. And we have got more on this from our reporter Natalia Jimenez in New York.
The timing of a lot of recent trades has become a source of suspicion here in the US. Back in April, a wave of accounts on Polymarket saw people place bets on an incoming US and Iran ceasefire. After that happened, people walked away with hundreds of thousands of dollars. So federal regulators here in the US are investigating, and the White House is telling its staff, do not use privileged information that you have access to do insider trading.
And the BBC did reach out to the White House, and we got this statement from a spokesperson who said that any implication that administration officials were engaged in such activity without evidence is baseless and irresponsible reporting. So, Madeleine, I want to talk to you about some of the other controversies around these platforms, because you can place a bet on pretty much anything. I know that some people have been betting on things like the Iran war, for example.
So just to say, in the US, you're not allowed to make trades on something like war, assassination, or terrorism. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. I think that a lot of this started when we saw conflict begin in Iran, and Polymarket actually had a market where you could bet on the chances of nuclear detonation. And that was something that caught fire online because people just felt like that was just so unethical. Polymarket did end up taking that down, but there were other bets about assassination of the Ayatollah and basically a lot of bets that related to the death or destruction of other people. A big reason why it is happening is because people are able to set up their accounts anonymously, and they use virtual private networks or VPNs to set their location to outside of the US, and then they're able to kind of circumvent these US laws. So it's very difficult to prosecute.
Just to clarify, Kalshi is a US company, right? It's based in the US, but Polymarket's based outside of the US. So people can place bets on things that are otherwise banned in the US using Polymarket.
Exactly. Polymarket is based offshore in Panama, so they are able to circumvent some of these US regulations.
What are the companies saying about the concerns, the ethical concerns of the way people are using their platforms?
Kalshi had an interesting kind of take on it, and they said no financial exchange is immune from bad actors. Stock exchanges, not banks and not prediction markets, and they are committed to working with the government to find and prosecute these individuals. And that's kind of the message I think that we're seeing even from these companies having a presence in DC, is they want to show that they're willing to cooperate with the government. They're trying to show that they are cooperative.
And Madeleine, I want to play you this because the BBC has done an interview with one of the co-founders of Kalshi. Her name's Luana Lopez Lara, and she is also the youngest female self-made billionaire in the world. So this is what she had to say about some of the criticism that Kalshi and other prediction markets have been facing.
Every financial innovation always comes with a lot of pushback. And I think that it's expected. We think it's really important to allow people to make money on what they know. One of our biggest traders is actually an Ariana Grande superfan. He found our music markets and has been able to pay back his student loans, expanding what people can trade on and access to make money on things that are more accessible to people, we think is very important. And the other side that's very important about prediction markets really is the data that you get from these markets. If you think about an election, getting unbiased data that's proved again and again way better than polls is actually very important for a good democracy to have access to these things.
So it is a complicated picture, lots of grey areas. Madeleine, do you think there's going to be a crackdown on how these platforms are used anytime soon?
Oh, that's the question. The honest answer is I don't really know. Trump did campaign on loosening the rules around these betting platforms, and we've seen a kind of looser approach from him, especially looking back at the Biden administration, which banned Polymarket from operating in the U.S. It's also important to note that Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., is on the board of both Kalshi and Polymarket. There is concern from both Democratic and Republican lawmakers about these bets. And this soldier arrest recently marks a big turning point where we're seeing the first major arrest within this prediction market space. But I would say the next step is to look on the state level. There are more than 24 lawsuits on the state level trying to figure out how to regulate prediction markets. And I think that that is where we might start to see change next. But really, it remains to be seen. It's kind of the Wild West out there at this point.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Madeline, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just want to give a huge shout out to our listeners and watchers in the Philippines. Loads of you got in touch with us and commented on our episodes on ube, the purple yam obsession that has been all over my feed, and donuts, lattes, you name it. So keep those comments coming, and I'm going to read out some of them now. So Elmar said, for us Filipinos, ube will never go out of trend or away. For many generations, we've been consuming it, and now in so many different ways. We also got a comment that said business owners shouldn't be labeling their products as made from Filipino ube when they know for a fact that it's not made from authentic ube. And another comment that says the Filipino government should preserve their local products. So if you haven't seen that episode and you want to try a purple latte, have a watch of that, and also let us know what you think in the comments. You can also get in touch with us on WhatsApp and on Instagram at BBC What in the World. I'm Hannah. This is What in the World from the BBC World Service, and we'll see you next time.